On this episode of Storm Stories, an historic hurricane hammers the Lone Star State.
This building is now falling apart.
Oh my God, the whole wall is gone.
This is a life or death type circumstance.
The streets were starting to look like a river.
This was some fast-moving water.
It's rising quickly, and then all of a sudden, it's to your ankles. We have to get out of this house.
August 2017. 21-year-old storm chaser Max Olson is loading up some gear on the outskirts of Dallas, Texas. The Oklahoma native has tracked and filmed many tornadoes.
Look at that thing. Oh my God.
But he's come here in pursuit of a much bigger weather phenomenon.
I started storm chasing when I was 9 years old with my father.
We are going storm chasing.
We've been looking to experience a major hurricane for over a decade. It's been since 2005 since we've had a major hurricane.
Max has his eye on a tropical storm that's hovering over the Atlantic, about 250 miles east of Barbados. If it builds to a hurricane and makes landfall along the Gulf Coast, he plans to be there.
That's just the most intense and most mesmerizing thing you could ever potentially experience.
A meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Galveston, Dan Riley, is also keeping an eye on the storm.
It had been a tropical storm in the eastern Caribbean and then weakened. And the thinking at that time was it would stay south and perhaps head into Mexico.
So we all kind of wrote it off. But then it just started showing signs of life again. We started seeing new plumes of thunderstorms going up near the center, and it started to gain the shape that we would be interested in.
The storm regains strength when it passes over a region of extremely warm ocean water called an eddy.
You have a weak storm that goes into a primed environment, and you get a beast that rapidly develops.
It quickly strengthens to a Cat 1 hurricane with 80-mile-an-hour winds.
We're starting briefings to emergency managers saying, hey, it looks like Texas is going to get a hurricane.
The computer models generally were showing a weaker trend, maybe a Category 1, Category 2 at landfall, but it didn't look like it was going to be that intense of a hurricane.
The hurricane, named Harvey, seems determined to defy the computer models.
Every few hours, it was like, oh my gosh, look at this satellite image. Look at how defined it's getting. And we were just kind of in disbelief.
It developed very rapidly from a depression to a Category 4. It's a very frightening scenario for us on the Texas coast. Not a whole lot of notice for a storm like that.
When you're a storm chaser and you're fascinated with meteorology, seeing a storm strengthen like that is absolutely exciting. But at the same time, it gets a little scary because 24 hours prior, we had been preparing for maybe a Category 2.
As it begins to grow into a monster, Harvey is predicted to make landfall near Rockport, Texas. Max arrives with his storm chaser friends just as the outer bands of the hurricane hit the town. He quickly breaks out his camera.
We are filming trees that are blowing in the wind. We're filming the waves crashing on the beach. But it's starting to get a little worse outside. The winds are starting to ramp up. It's starting to flood. That's where you're like, okay, this is starting to become a bit more of a situation. It's not like a pretty tornado chase where you can safely maneuver in and out of the path. We found what looked to be a suitable hotel. We had asked the manager about the structural integrity, and he said it's built to withstand strong hurricanes, and you just have to cross your fingers that you made a good decision.
On August 25th, around 8 p.m., the eye wall of Harvey slams directly into Rockport. The Cat 4 storm has sustained winds of over 150 miles per hour.
It starts getting just absolutely chaotic outside. There's an overall sustained wind that's very intense, but it's the gusts that are really pretty scary.
You
start to see full trees coming down, parts of roofs being torn off. You hear sheet metal flying down the road. You occasionally get power flashes that are illuminating stuff that's being torn apart 3 miles away.
I have no clue.
It's just otherworldly.
Max takes cover inside, but the hotel provides little comfort.
This is incredible. Still in the high wall of Category 4 hurricane.
This relatively well-constructed building is now starting to show signs of falling apart. There's water pouring in from the ceiling. There's tiles starting to come off.
I would be surprised if this roof comes off.
I know, that's what I'm worried about.
We have the window flexing in and out and starting to crack and break, and you just hear this howl that is just haunting. You would put your back to the walls of the hotel and you could feel it shifting back and forth.
Wow.
The whole building is going like this.
That is intense.
Then you heard this crash.
Did you hear that? The whole building just completely shook.
The pressure in the building actually changed substantially. You could feel your ears pop a little bit. And you know something has gone really wrong.
Let's see what's on the 4th floor. That's already right here.
We open the door, and all you can see is black on the other side of the hallway. You could just hear that howl, that almost kind of like a growl. And that's when we knew that we didn't have a wall on an entire side of a building.
Oh my God, the whole wall is gone.
When you don't have a wall, it's almost like you're back outside in it. You're facing 140-mile-per-hour winds. There's water pouring in. You're being littered with sheet metal or 2x4s. And just the sounds of metal and wood clanking together. And at that point, it became, is our building gonna survive? That's where you get into the realm of, this is a life or death type circumstance. You don't have much you can do other than cross your fingers, say a prayer, and hope that you're able to make it out of this alive.
Oh my God.
21-year-old storm chaser Max Olson is documenting Hurricane Harvey in Rockport, Texas. He's taken cover in a hotel that's being ripped apart by the Cat 4 storm.
The whole wall is gone.
This is becoming life-threatening. You have no clue if that roof's gonna cave in and floors are gonna start caving in on each other. There's thoughts running through your head about, what if I just made the dumbest decision of my life?
Max and his fellow storm chasers go door to door, warning people to get down to the lobby. They collect food and water and make sleeping stations for the elderly.
These are people that you've never met and you will probably never meet again, but everybody just kind of came together and figured out what needed to happen.
People crowd into an interior room on the ground level to ride out the hurricane. Harvey batters the hotel throughout the night.
We're waiting for this break and it's just not coming. It's just never ending.
The next morning, the hotel is still standing, though badly damaged. Max and all the others have survived the Cat 4 hurricane.
It was just a moment of relief, just a sigh of, we made it.
He walks outside to survey the destruction.
It was totaled. It was hard to find a structure that didn't sustain some type of major damage. We were there at ground zero when it made impact, and that's incredible. But at the same time, people just lost everything, and that is horrifying.
After blasting the Texas coast, Harvey steadily weakens as it drifts northward to Houston.
The potential for 50 inches of rain in isolated areas.
This was the first time in my 26-year career where I would say the words catastrophic flooding expected. We'd never seen the computer models showing 40, 50 inches of rain. I certainly did feel pressure. I knew it was going to be a historic storm, maybe even unprecedented. The challenge was getting people to understand that.
People like Houston real estate agent George Huntoon. George has heard the flood warnings, but he's out showing houses anyway.
In Houston, we get this a lot, and so you start thinking, is this going to be big or not?
George's good friend, Monica Ice-Perua, is also skeptical.
We had some disasters that were going to come straight forward, and then at the last, literally, hour, they turned, and it didn't hit us at all. As a single mom with 2 kids, I'm trying to determine, are we going to stay here or should we go? I'm listening to my neighbors. They're like, you didn't flood the last 2 rains that we had. It's not going to be that bad. So that's what we decided to stay.
The trees were blowing like crazy, and then it rained continuously throughout the night.
It just starts pouring.
Saturday night, we received 20 inches of rain.
It just felt like it was never stopping.
Harvey dumps 52 inches of rain on Houston. It's more than 27 trillion gallons of water, enough to fill the Houston Astrodome 60,000 times. 1/3 of the city is completely flooded, including more than 100,000 homes.
We've had flooding here before, but this was 10 times, 20 times as bad. You had tens of thousands of homes in 3, 4, 5 foot, 10-foot water. They were telling people to not get in their attic, but get on the roof so they wouldn't get trapped. That's when I thought, wow, something's wrong here.
George and his family are safe. Their house is built on high ground. But his friend Monica is not so lucky.
My neighborhood flooded and the streets were starting to look like a river. I just have a 1-story house. I was constantly looking out the window and seeing as it progressed closer and closer and closer and wondering, is it gonna flood? And then my son actually said, Mom, there's water in the house. I'm stepping in water and it's rising quickly, and then all of a sudden, it's to your ankles. The water was reaching the outlets. And so that in itself is a scary thought. Those first moments were horrifying. You just don't know when it's gonna stop or if it's gonna stop. In my mind, we have to get out of this house. I started calling 911 and it just rang and rang and rang and rang. I just kept thinking, someone's probably not gonna be able to get to me. I gotta find another solution.
Monica starts making desperate posts on social media.
I kind of just told them, look, I'm here with my 2 kids. Here's our address. We need to be rescued.
30 miles away in Katy, Texas, George, who's a retired Marine, sees his friends cry for help.
I started thinking, man, I might need to go save my friends. In the Marine Corps, my main focus training was amphibious assault vehicles, so it was on the water. And I had a boat. What if I didn't do anything and something happened to them? That's what would haunt me forever.
George hitches his boat to his car, calls Monica, and tells her to hold tight.
Hey, buddy, I'm in my car. I got the boat behind me right now. If I can get out of the Katy area, I'm going to put in my boat off of 59 and Braze Bayou, and I'm going to try to take Bayou up to come get you.
When George said he was heading my way, I was like, wow, I can't believe this. Now I just hope he can make it.
George puts his boat into the water right off the freeway. He quickly realizes his rescue mission is much more than he bargained for.
This was some very fast-moving water. It was almost a rip current. And I look, and there was a Houston Fire Department rescue boat tumped upside down. That was one of the scariest parts.
August 2017. Hurricane Harvey has become the most extreme rainfall event in U.S. history, dumping over 5 feet of rain in some areas and causing unprecedented flooding. In Houston, thousands are still trapped in their homes, including Monica Isparua and her 2 children. There's at least a foot of water in their home, and it's rising quickly.
Furniture was collapsing, shelves were falling, and other stuff was kind of like floating. My daughter starts freaking. She started just to get real emotional and kind of just bawling. I'm a woman of faith, so it just kept going, and I kept praying.
Monica's only hope is her friend, George Huntoon. He's put his small fishing boat into the flooded streets and is trying to navigate to her.
We're off Memorial Drive in the Energy Corridor. That's the BP building right behind me. This water's at least 4 feet up on each house right now.
I knew that this was going to be dangerous. This was some very fast-moving water.
Hopefully, if we can get to her house, we'll get her saved here soon.
I look, and there was a Houston Fire Department rescue boat tumped upside down. I mean, I'm thinking the rescue people turned their boat over. That was one of the scariest parts.
The rain's really starting to come down now.
I was very worried about trees and debris underneath. We knew there was a lot of submerged vehicles.
There's a car. Oh, we got a submerged car right here we almost ran into.
There's live wires in the water. It was just so many obstacles.
We got about a mile to go till we get up to Monica Aspira's house.
As I was going and taking a left underneath the highway, my motor hit something underground and stalled out. The motor turned off.
Oh.
And the boat started to spin. The current was pushing us, and we had started to drift. I just immediately was just pulling the motor, trying to start it.
A mile away, Monica is running out of time.
It's only just a few more inches that it needs to start overlapping in the window. I don't want us to have to go under the water.
Minutes later, George arrives.
I told you I'd come save you.
I was like, oh my gosh, he's here. It was definitely a great feeling, and I didn't even know what was gonna happen next.
I was pretty excited that I made it there. And so I gave her a big hug.
All right, let's get out of here.
George, thank you for coming to get us.
I was really just grateful that he took the time to come and get us. And not only that, he left his family behind to come and do it.
As I was coming down her street, people were yelling from their house, hey, get me, get me.
Every house has people in it. They all need to be rescued, but we can't get everyone right now, so that's the thing.
I was just worried about too many people getting in the boat, and then I wouldn't be able to do anything.
He's having to turn people away.
And that was tough.
Where he dropped us off was at the edge of the freeway. At that point, George was like, I know I said I was gonna take you guys to my house, but I need to go back out.
I knew that there were just thousands of people still out there.
Over the next 3 days, George makes dozens of additional rescues, saving hundreds of trapped residents.
All right, we just picked up 5 more refugees, evacuees here.
I didn't feel like a hero. I just had set out that day to try to go save my friend, and it turned into more. God put me in that particular situation to do what I did and help people.
George is joined by a citizen navy of volunteer boaters. Braving deadly waters, they rescue thousands of stranded residents.
The whole experience of Hurricane Harvey definitely took my life in a different direction. No one was asking who I voted for. I didn't care what religion they were, what color they were. Everyone just kind of came together. That was the thing I learned, is how much of a community Houston is and how willing people are to help each other.